Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Borderline Podcast with me, your host, Andrew Willix. Guys, it's a beautiful Sunday morning. The early bird catches the worm, and I'm back with a brilliant face-to-face interview with the brilliant Chloe Ditcham. Thank you so much for giving up a little bit of your time this Sunday and coming onto the show. Chloe, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks very much for having me.
Brilliant. And it's such a brave thing that you do, and I know that you're a little bit nervous, as I am. You've spent the last 5 minutes calming me down, which is usually quite ironic about this podcast, but here we are. And a lot of my local listeners will know who you are, but would you, for those that maybe don't know who you are, just give a little bit of background of who you are and why you've came on the show this morning?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Chloe, and I am a self-employed dog groomer from Duns. I've got my own dog grooming business. I am a mum of 2 children, Fergus and Rosie, and I also have 2 dogs, Buzz and Brooke, and I'm also a wife, my husband James. I have been going to Sparta Gym for about 6 years, and I'm obviously on here today to talk about my fitness journey and mental health that comes with that.
Well, it's incredibly brave. Like I said, when you first came across to the house, you know, doing this sort of thing is not easy.
Yeah, I'm very nervous.
It is very nerve-wracking, but like I've said, massive respect. It's completely, commendable that giving up a little bit of your time, and like you said, I don't think you mind me saying it, it is a type of therapy in some sort of way. It's coming on and talking about your story. So it's an honor for me to be able to host the story and to get the story out there. So obviously you'd said that you were back in the Sparta. You're the same as me. You used to train back at Sparta back in the olden days.
Yeah.
I mean, how much different is the gym differently now to what it was back when you started?
I mean, Alan's done amazing with the gym. Like, it is just such a good place, isn't it? Like,
yeah. I just love how diverse it is.
Yeah,
like, it really
100%.
is inclusive to anybody and everybody. So you've wanted to come on today to talk a little bit more about obviously your fitness journey and the mental health that goes on with fitness journey, because you are what I would call the elitist. When it comes into these categories of fitness, because we have our regular goers, and then we have the people that just want a little bit more of fitness. Yeah. And I'm sure that you kind of fall into that category.
Yeah.
Are you a super competitive person?
No, I've never actually competed at anything in my life. Yeah, and I still haven't, because I didn't actually compete. Obviously I would like to win, but when I first started this whole process of competing, it was never about like the competition itself. It was just a challenge for myself. I wanted to do something that was out my comfort zone and just challenge myself. It was never, I always said if I stood on stage, I would have won regardless of where I came on the competition. It wasn't about winning. But as time went on, I was like, no, I really want to win this. And I actually learned that about myself, that maybe I am a wee bit more competitive than I thought I was. But no, I wouldn't say in a whole that I am competitive.
Yeah, I really liked what you said there, that no matter what the outcome, when you stood on stage, that you would have been a winner anyway.
Yeah.
That's so well put. So could you just maybe just wind us back a little bit then? How do you go from, starting the gym to then changing a complete lifestyle, basically?
Well, it is a life,
competing. Would you be able to just fill in the listeners of how much of a change that can be to some people?
So when I first started the gym, it was mainly for my mental health is why I went to the gym, which I think a lot of the listeners will agree that 90% maybe of people go to the gym to sort their head out rather than anything else. And as time goes on and, you start to see changes in your body and you feel better in yourself, I was like, do you know, I actually really love this as like not just for mental health. Yeah. I was really enjoying like seeing the changes in my body and growing muscle. And Alan actually approached me in the gym one day and he said to me, have you ever thought about competing? And I was like, well, not really. Like, it's never been anything that's, come into my head. But he planted a seed that day and I went away. I'd never even really known much about the bodybuilding world. I mean, I've got a friend who has done it all his life. So I started researching the bikini side of competition, looking at different bikini competitors on Instagram, and I was like, yeah, like I could do this. So I made the decision without really thinking too much into it. I just made the decision, like, kind of like, fuck it, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like, so I said to Alan, like, I want to do this, and he put me in touch with a coach who has competed herself, and we kind of just taken it from there, and the journey started.
So how? Because I've in the past I've contemplated the idea of competing. Definitely not now. How much? And the bit that I never thought I'd be able to psychologically get over would obviously be in the diet.
Yeah,
it's incredibly thoroughly hard. Is that would be the right way of saying it?
Yes, like 100%. So
how much? I just got to ask you a question. How much? Obviously, you went to the gym for your mental health, and then you start this new change of plan to really take things seriously.
Yeah.
Was that supporting your mental health, or was that more kind of linear into the physicality side of it? Would you?
I wouldn't say it supported my mental health at all. In fact, it's the complete opposite. But at the time, because I was in such a good place with my mental health, because I had been regularly going to the gym and, you know, working on myself internally, I felt really, really positive about it. So no, it wasn't until later down the line that I realised, actually, you know, when you stop and think about it, I was like, no, this isn't good for my mental health at all. So no, but as I say, I didn't really give that much, the whole thing, I never really gave much thought, and how that was really going to affect my mental health. I just saw it like, this is going to be so good for my mental health, but actually it had the opposite effect.
Yeah, I think that's so true as well. Actually, something that I pointed out on the podcast that I done last night about understanding mental health and anxiety is take things slow, because when you do struggle with mental health, we can sometimes get that knee-jerk reaction of jumping into something because we feel so good at the time.
Yeah.
And there is a danger of that. So could you just talk a little bit, obviously you start your plan, what that all entailed and how much different that really was compared to your usual plan that you had developed for yourself?
So when I first met with my coach, she told me that I wasn't eating enough food. So I was like, great. So she increased my calories, and from there I started a bulk. So it was every week my calories would increase, and by the end of the bulk I was eating like nearly 3,000 calories a day. Like, it was a lot of food. And she also gave me a training plan which I had to follow, which was amazing because I was learning so much. Like, I had been to the gym for 5-6 years before that, but everything was really self-taught, or like from people in the gym, that sort of stuff. So it was good to learn, and I met with her a couple of times and done like one-on-one training sessions as well. So from that side, I'd learned so much about training and form and what was the best thing to do. So I completed the bulk, which was, I think, probably about 3 months of bulking, and my body changed like completely. Like, I was like a completely different person. And then just before Christmas, I went into a cut, so my calories started to drop, and it was gradual. Like, it wasn't, slashing my calories in half or anything. It was very, very gradual. But it got near the end of my prep, I was eating about 1,200 calories. So yeah, it was the bulk first, and then obviously went into the cut as well. Yeah.
So, say what for those maybe that are a little bit unaware of just how precise a diet needs to be, could you talk about a little bit like the foodstuffs that you were eating and how obviously regimented the diet itself has to be?
Well, it was like very strict. So if it wasn't on my food plan, I wasn't allowed to eat it, and everything that was on my food plan had to be weighed out. So, like, for example, for a lunch, I would have 100 grams of chicken and 100 grams of spinach, and that's it. Like, no sauces, nothing. That is it. Like, yeah, it was rough. But you know what's really funny is, in the moment and in the time, I was like, this is great. I love this food. Like, but I think it was my mind's way of tricking me into thinking this is great. Like, but I felt absolutely amazing eating the foods I was eating, because it was all whole foods. Like, it was a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, meat. That was basically all I ate. So I had high energy and felt great up until the last, like, I would say 3 weeks out. Well, the last maybe 6-7 weeks of the prep was really rough. Yeah, so
like I say, I think I can agree some sense when you try and trick your brain. I can mind I was avidly doing the chicken rice and broccoli diet, and I thought it was fine. I tell people now, I'm like, oh, it actually wasn't too bad. It was quite easy.
Yeah.
But the thought of me going back and doing something like that now, I'm like, nah, like I couldn't do that to myself again.
I mean, when I was in the prep, I remember saying to my friends, like, I will eat like this when I'm not prepping because I love this food. It is so, like, I genuinely was just trying to trick myself into thinking this is great. Now, if somebody put sweet potato, chicken and spinach in front of me, I would be like, I am not eating that, like, no chance. So yeah, it's funny how your mind just plays tricks on you to try and, like, make you feel like, oh, this is actually okay, but no, it wasn't.
So obviously you didn't compete.
No.
Can we talk about, I know it might be a little bit harder for you, it's obviously quite raw.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the decisions leading up to that?
Yeah, of course. So the competition was meant to be at the end of April there, so it is still quite raw, and I have processed the whole thing and I'm at peace with my decision. Like, I don't regret the decision not to compete at all. The reasons why I decided to stop is because I was miserable. Like, I genuinely was so miserable, and I was starving for one, which is not a nice place to be. My home life was struggling. You know, as I said earlier, I've got 2 young kids, and I was training 5 days a week at night time, after working all day, after being a mum, after, you know, all the normal life stuff. I was just exhausted, and I wasn't present in my life. Like, I wasn't being a good mum. I wasn't being a good wife, because me and James were like passing ships in the night. I would come in from work, he had picked the kids up from school, I would quickly eat, I would go out again, and then I wouldn't be back until like 9, half 9, because I also had like 50 minutes of cardio to do after I had trained. And life was just, I almost became like a robot, because I just was like, right, I've got these boxes that I need to tick every day, and they're non-negotiables. Like, I have to tick them boxes, and everything else had to just take a back seat. And, you know, when you're a mum and a wife, it's not really possible. Well, I mean, it is, and it like was possible for such a long time. And James, and, you know, he was so supportive of everything, even though he didn't even agree with what I was doing. Like, he always said to me, like, I don't know why you're doing this to yourself. Like, he didn't agree with what I was doing, but he was still supportive of it. And I remember sitting on my kitchen worktop, and he came in, and I was just like, I'm done. Like, I cannot do this anymore. And he was like, well, you need to do what's right for you and just make the decision, you know, based on yourself. And if you feel like you can't go on anymore, then you need to stop. So yeah, I made the decision there. I was like, I'm so done. Like, I can't do this anymore. So it was hard, because obviously people had invested in me, and people had invested their time and money, and I had invested so much money into it. So it wasn't an easy decision at all to say that I'm not doing it anymore. But I 100% stand by it was the right decision, 100%.
Definitely sounds like it was. It definitely sounds something that a phrase that I'm trying to narrate my own kind of mental health is healthy selfish. Mm-hmm. It's that although there's a decision that maybe other people would potentially be let down or potentially don't agree with your decision, you're making a selfishly decision based on your own health.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's so important, because how many people would go ahead and do that because they would feel that the other side, because they had to. And like you say, it takes a lot, even making a decision to go down that lifestyle, but then to get on stage is a whole nother kettle of fish.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that you can be so in tune and honest with yourself to make that decision.
Yeah.
Was that a decision that you had progressively thought about leading up to that, or was it just I can't do this anymore?
No, it I had about 3 weeks before I made the decision to stop. I had a hour-long phone call with my coach because I was like crying down the phone. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it was I was leaving to go to the gym one night, and my son was like, "You're never here. Like, I never see you." And he was so upset. He was crying his eyes out. And I got into the car, and I was like, "Oh my God, like, why am I doing this?" So then I had convinced myself, right, I'm going to stop. And after speaking with my coach, I realised, like, no, I've put too much into it. Like, I need to keep going. And I was internally fighting with myself. Like, my heart was saying stop, but my head was like, no, keep going. Like, you have to keep going. So no, it was definitely a decision that had been thought about for a few weeks before. It was not an easy decision to make. Because as I say, I felt as though I was letting not just myself down, other people down, which I'm such a people pleaser as it is, and I would hate to feel like I was letting somebody down. But as you say, I needed to be selfish and just think of my own feelings and how I was. At the end of the day, it was me that was living it. It was me that was having to do it every day, and the sacrifice just wasn't worth it.
That's it. I mean, it's nothing on the same level. I just pulled out the Edinburgh half marathon for next week, and again, I knew probably for the last 3 or 4 weeks that I'm not going to be able to do it, but you try and trick yourself little bit more. Just get another couple of days just to see if you feel a bit better about it. But you know in the back of your mind that once Alan had planted the seed about competing, once you planted the seed about not competing, and you're living that narrative in your head every day, it's very hard to detach yourself from that idea. So you make that decision. It's obviously a massive one. I know this is going to sound like a bit of a flippant, stupid question, but how did that feel straight after? Was it relief or was it guilt? Or a mix of both, I guess?
Mix of both, but I would say more relief. I got off the phone. Well, actually, I got off the phone. I didn't tell my coach or Alan over the phone. I'd sent a message, which was probably the coward's way out. But and then once they had replied and I'd spoken to them both, it was almost like a sense of relief. And I was like, oh my God, it's over. And I phoned the chippy and I ordered a pizza. It was like 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, I don't even know what I want to eat. You know, I had like spent weeks looking at food, thinking about food. Like, I had a list on my phone of all the foods that I was going to eat, like after this show had, the competition had finished. And I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, I'm going to have a pizza. That's it. So I ordered a pizza. James went and picked it up for me. And I felt awful after eating this pizza because I obviously hadn't had anything like that for so long. Yeah. But I just needed to like give myself that pizza. I deserved that pizza.
Absolutely. Of course you deserve that pizza. I think, I'm pretty sure it was Yasmin that said that when she was in her diet kind of plan, that she was getting to the stage that she was going into shops and just picking up food that she wanted to eat. Yeah. Were you at that stage? Or?
I wasn't picking up food in the shops, but I mean, your mind, because your body is in starvation mode, and it does everything possible to make you think of food. And I remember smelling food and just imagining what it tastes like. As I say, I was looking through Instagram, and it's funny because Instagram obviously knows what you're thinking. I don't know how they do it.
Your phones listen.
So all my Instagram posts were like restaurants with like food posts and all these beautiful foods that I couldn't eat. And I was saving them all on, and I was thinking, I'm going to go to this restaurant, I'm going to eat this food. And I just thought about food 24/7. I was dreaming of food. Like, I would go to bed and it was all I could think about.
It's true. I mean, we live in a culture of food and diet. I mean, if you're not doing it right, you're doing it. Sorry, if you're not doing it wrong, you're doing it right. Sometimes in Britain, we're cultured into this notion that most things are bad, but everything in moderation is always quite good. Regardless. So, how was obviously you didn't feel too good after the pizza, but how was your relationship with food coming back out of that level of discipline? Was it something that you struggled to eat? I know that you were eating vast amounts during a bout, but coming from a cutback at kind of normality, was that quite a hard transition?
It's actually a really, really difficult thing to navigate. And when I was at the start of all this, I had like great plans that when I had finished my competition, I would follow a reverse diet, and I would try and keep the body that I had built, maybe not to the extreme of being stage lean, but it's not impossible, because there are people that do it, and I take my hat off to them. For me, it's been impossible to follow like a diet plan now. After following a diet plan for so long, my relationship with food, because of all this, it's awful. I'm scared to eat certain foods. Diet culture. I mean, I've dieted all my life. I can't remember a time that I've not been in a diet, from high school till now. Well, not now, because I'm not on a diet now, but it's a really, really difficult thing to navigate when you have so many rules around food and when to eat certain foods and certain food groups. It is a process that I'm now going through, is to try and heal that relationship with food. And it's like something that I didn't expect to have to deal with. But it is. I would say that's been the hardest thing coming out of all this, is now the relationship that I've got with food.
Yeah. So, and obviously I don't want to push it too much, because, like I said, it's still quite raw. We spoke about quite early on in the start of this episode that obviously the competing lifestyle was pretty degrading for your mental health. Could you just talk a little bit just about what that felt like to you?
Yeah, of course. So, as I say, I've always followed a diet, and I've always chased this like ideal beauty standard that society has everybody believe that is like the perfect beauty standard, which is so wrong, because you can see beauty in everything. Everybody's different, and it's only now that I'm actually realising that. But I think the difficult thing for me has been, I got to what I thought was like the ideal beauty standard, and I was miserable and hated every second of it. And now I'm realising, like, I've wasted so much time of my life stressing about like what my body looks like, trying to change my body and manipulate how I look, when really, like, God, there's so much more to life than that. Like, that really isn't a big thing in the grand scheme of things.
Because it is really important. Like you say, it's when you're adaptive to your mental health and you think there's going to be positives and it kind of comes into negatives, that's really hard to deal with. When, like you say, you do have that added pressure as well of people pleasing, because let's never forget, those that struggle with mental health are the biggest people pleasers in the world.
Absolutely.
We love saying yes to absolutely everything, as long as it keeps a smiling on our face. It's obviously, it's barely been 3 weeks since there. How are you now? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, no, not at all. I'm okay. Like, some days I spoke to you on Instagram the other day, and I was like, I'm having such a shitty mental health day. Like, some days it feels really overwhelming, and the whole thing, I would say it's up and down. Like, some days I'm really, really good, and some days I'm really, really shit. But it just depends on my mood at the time, I guess. But I have struggled with my mental health on and off. Well, I was first diagnosed with postnatal depression after my first child, and previous to that I had never had any mental health issues that I think I'm quite good at just like putting a lot of things to the back of my mind, so maybe I did have something there that I just wasn't given the light of day. And then it came out after I'd had Fergus. And I went on to antidepressants after that for a very, very short time, because I felt like, oh, I'm healed. I'm fine now. I felt so much better after going on the medication. And then I stopped, and then all this depression feeling started coming back. But I'd done that thing where I was like, I don't need medication. I'll just battle on and just persevere with it. So then, about, I don't know, maybe a year ago, I went back on. So I'm currently still on medication now for depression and anxiety as well. So it's just about taking each day as it comes, I guess. And actually looking back at this whole thing, I maybe wasn't in the best headspace starting this, and maybe that's why the journey's ended the way it has, because my mental state maybe wasn't in the best place. And I think I was just putting it all to the back of my mind as well, which isn't a like it's not a healthy thing to do. And when your body's going through like complete and utter starvation and burnout, everything just comes to the forefront, and there you can't hide from it. So it was tough, and I still feel like I'm very much in it, and this is obviously a very raw and real honest conversation. But it feels good to talk about it, and it's so important to talk about how you're feeling and what's going on in your life. And you actually don't know what people are going through. Like, people would probably look at me and think, she's got everything, she's like got her life sorted out and she's so happy all the time, but you don't know what people are going through, like, and that's why you do sometimes just need to make that decision for yourself.
It's so true, and so beautifully put as well, by the way. Thank you very much for that. It was something I was talking about last night on the podcast. I was actually talking about medication as well. And, that in itself is a huge thing to go through when you talk about side effects, when you talk about, getting up to correct dosages and whatnot. It's not just a paracetamol that you take and 2 hours later you feel a little bit better. It's a staggered, slow process. And it's so, so important not to judge somebody from the outside because you have no idea if like I think I said last night, if that's somebody even contemplating going to the doctors, that maybe they've just been thinking about that for 2 weeks. That 2 weeks for that person's probably been hell because they've been overthinking this thing.
It becomes like a battle in your brain, doesn't it? And
it really does. And then you get to the doctors, you go on the medicine, you start feeling a little bit shit because you get the side effects. People are going through that, and like you say, you just don't know what people are going through, and you really hit the nail on the head there. So obviously you say that obviously things are up and down just now. That's something I can relate to wholly. I think the worst thing about, personally, just to talk about mental health a little bit more, is, I don't know about you, it certainly feels for me when I use fitness as well, that at times I trick myself into thinking, that's me better. I feel great today. That's it done. And then you forget how bad that you can feel. Is that something that you kind of struggle with?
Yeah, totally. Because it is so up and down. Like, some days I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, I've got the balance. I've got it sussed out. Like, I'm training and I'm enjoying my training. I'm eating well. And then one day can just change everything and you just feel crap again. And you're like, no, like, I thought I had it all worked out. But then it becomes like beating yourself up, and it's like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just get this sorted out? Like, I had, with the gym and stuff, you can, for like, I don't know how long, you can feel so motivated and you have that motivation there, and then it drops and you don't have the motivation to go, and then you're like, why can't I just keep going? And it's like that negative self-talk is awful. It's
I always think it's just like, it's like reaching out for a bit of rope. You can grab it, but it just doesn't, just that stretch, it almost feels mental health like that. You kind of know what to do, but you just can't do it the way, and it's so hard. It's so hard, but it's something that just asking a lot of people recently, obviously from Sparta as well. Do you think training at a smaller gym helps mental health in comparison to, like, when you see pure gyms and these big open spaces?
100%. Yeah, like 100%. I think that, Alan has created this like Sparta family, and it's right. Like, you go in, I mean, now I train at like 4:30 a.m, so I'm usually in there myself. So not so much now, but you get to know everybody that's there, and especially like when I was competing or in prep for the competition, so many people would ask me like, how are you feeling? How's it going? And it like would open up conversation. Whereas like if you were in a big gym, people probably just put their headphones on, don't want to talk to anybody. You know what I mean? Whereas everybody does like to talk. And
well, it's so true. I went up there just to sport, and it was the most pathetic leg session ever, by the way. It really was pathetic. But I went up and just wanted a quick little half an hour just to get my head sorted and whatnot as well. And one thing to do with mental health that Alan does amazingly is people up there talk about their mental health in the gym environment, which I think is so important. There was a guy up there, I don't know his name, I'm afraid, but we were speaking for about 20 minutes and he was referencing PTSD and things that he struggles with. And I'm like, wow, we've never spoke before, but because we're in this environment, you feel that you can. How important is that with dealing with mental health, that
like,
just knowing that you can speak about stuff.
100%. And I think that's credit to Alan, because he has done a lot on Instagram about mental health, and he's obviously done the charity things. People know that that's a safe place to talk about things, and I think that's so important, because I think, as I said earlier, the majority of people that start the gym will be to sort their head out over anything else. Like, it's definitely I always say that the gym's like my therapy. That's my time to just have an hour or whatever it may be to myself, and you're not thinking about anything else. You're just thinking, right, shit, I need to lift this weight. Like, let's get it up or whatever. So that is so important that people feel that they can talk about that, especially with a stranger as well, which is
it's so unique. And like I say, you wouldn't get, I highly doubt that you'd get that like sort of a big commercial gym.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Anything like that. Would you just to kind of go back into your prep, and people were asking you how at the gym now, you know, how are you doing? You're saying things are going well. Was there an element, obviously, when you knew that you're feeling quite tough with yourself, that you were obviously falsifying your answers, that, I'm okay, and everything's great, but how hard is that?
I always was honest. Like, if I was struggling, I'd be like, oh, I'm good, but I'm just so tired, or I'm drained, or whatever. I would always be honest, but it's a very, like, bikini competitions, it's very glamorous, and, like, I felt like I needed to just try and brush over the fact of how hard it really was. But no, I always tried to be as honest as I could be, but probably not 100% honest. Like, it's
very hard to be 100% honest all the time, especially if you're having a bad day. Yeah. Some days you don't want to talk about it. You just want to say.
Yeah, and it doesn't help. Like, people in the gym would say things like, oh, I'm having a Chinese for my tea tonight, or like, I was like, come on guys, I'm starving over here. Like, and they just thought it was funny, you know, like winding me up. And I was like, oh, this is not fun.
I was gonna say, that wouldn't be funny.
No, it's
like,
not funny.
I get hangry on a regular basis, and I could bite somebody's head off. Yeah, going into prep.
I know, I was extremely hangry. I feel sorry for my family having to live with me, honestly. Like, I was awful, but that's just the side effect of being starving. Like, your body is just crying out for food.
It's really important, something that you said on earlier when we're talking about culture and diets. You know, this image, especially more so women, that you have to be this, you have to look like that. How wrong is that perception?
So wrong. And actually, I didn't realise until after finishing this competition, I listened to a lot of podcasts and audiobooks, and I came across the Fuck It Diet, which is it's a book, and it's totally changed my life. Like, that sounds really dramatic, but it has, because it's opened my eyes to diet culture, and it's like it's a massive industry that people are like financially gaining from people's insecurities, and it's awful really when you think about it. And so many women and men as well will spend their life dieting, changing their diet to try and manipulate their body and fit into this like accepted body or whatever, and it's wrong, because now what I've learned is that your body has like a set point weight, which it's naturally sits at, and that like genetics defines that. And I've been like thinking, I've been spending all this time trying to change my body, but my body has like a place where it's happy to sit at. But it's so wrong, and everybody is affected by diet culture. Everybody,
because like you say, it's such a commercial thing now. When you look at Weight Watchers, Slim World, all these things. You know,
I've done them both.
Have you done them? Oh, would you be able to talk a little bit about?
Well, I mean, I've done so many different diets. Like, I've done Slim World, Weight Watchers, cleanse diets, juice diets, fat burners. Like, I remember in school, I didn't actually do this, but I remember in school, I was actually just thinking about this when I was driving here this morning. Girls we were in maybe first or second year doing a baby food diet. Like, all they ate was jars of baby food. Like, that's how messed up it is that people feel that that's the correct way to eat to get the body you need to have. Like,
it's just, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt just a second, because something just flicked into my head, and I hope she's not listening. I won't say her name, which you'll definitely know who I'm on about. I was just listening to this. But I had a girl at work, this is going back years ago, and I'm no joking, I would say she would have been maybe around about 7 or 8 stone or something like that. And she was doing the 5-2 diet. And I just could not work. I mean, literally for lunch, she was having a handful of cherry tomatoes.
Oh my God.
And like a Weight Watchers cracker bread. Yeah. And I'm thinking, why is Weight Watchers doing cracker bread? How can you have less calories than
that? It's
anyway?
just madness.
And I'm thinking, you're doing that 2 days a week and that's all you're eating. And I'm like, that is not healthy.
No, it's not at all. And mentally that's not healthy either, because it becomes this vicious cycle. So everyone's done it. They say, right, Monday I'm going to start a diet. They go Monday to Friday and they stick to the diet 100% of the way, and then come Saturday you binge on all these foods that you've been dreaming of. Then Sunday you feel so disappointed in yourself, the negative self-talk, like, God, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just stick to a diet? And then you say, right, tomorrow will be different. And you start a new diet. You do something different, or you say, right, I'm going to eat healthy. And the same thing happens, and it becomes like a really vicious cycle that's so negative for your mental health as well, not just your physical health. Like, I've reading these books that I've been, podcasts, diets don't work. Like, there isn't a diet other than like just listening to your body and eating what feels right to you. Yeah. Nothing else, no other diet is sustainable. You cannot stick to a diet for a long period of time. And how many people do you know that's done a diet, lost weight, and then put the weight back on, if not more? And then that alters your set point weight, so basically dieting just does more damage than it does good, which is something that I've been learning about and coming to understand.
It's incredibly interesting though, isn't it? Like I say, because it really does affect people, and people just don't. People look on the TV, they get their little 30-second advert between Corey at night, and it's kind of buy your Slim Fast and whatnot.
Yeah,
and like
Slim
you say,
Fast, I've done that too.
Well,
I've done them all, honestly.
It's and people think, because we're creatures of loving quick fixes, aren't we? You know, we love a quick fix more than anything else in this world, and people look at that and people finance that, and like you say, when we talk about mental health, certainly, if you were following a diet, in a very strict diet, a juicing diet, or Slimming World, and it wasn't working for you, you're going to then start questioning what's wrong with you internally as well.
Because as well, the adverts are like, this has changed my life. I've lost X amount of weight, and it's like it's to prove that it does work, but it doesn't. And then you think, well, they can do it. Why can't I do it? And why is this not working for me? And it becomes like a really negative thing in your own head.
I'll just ask you, what's the worst one out of the lot that you could think of in your head, out of the commercial brand name diets?
Slimming World, because it's like a cult.
Is that the points one?
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, Weight Watchers is the point one. Both of them are as bad as each other, to be honest. It's like a cult, and they, like, for example, you can have a banana, but when you mash the banana, you can't have that because that's sins. Like,
what?
I know, it's just like, or you can't have it in a smoothie because you're blending it up. Like,
oh, come on.
I know, it's just, and then you have free foods, which is like potatoes, pasta, rice, and I'm like, okay, so I could literally eat pasta, rice, and potatoes as much as I want, but things like chicken and bananas it's just crazy. But it's just a different way of putting you in a calorie deficit. That's how you do lose weight. But it's any form of diet now I know I've changed my tune completely from being like really strict on a diet, but I'm educating myself and I'm trying to better my understanding of it all. And actually, it's so interesting when you look into it and learn about like the biology behind it all and the science of it all and how your body really works. It is extremely interesting. I'll not go into that because I'll probably not do it justice.
I've done animal biology and done biochemistry.
Oh gosh,
it's not an interesting subject. Well, it is interesting. It is interesting, but the different reactions and that. I was going from learning about animals to then going to learning about reactions in the stomach. I was like, wow, but it's massive. There's so much information there about what actually really goes on in our body that we just don't know about. And why we need certain minerals in our body to allow these reactions to happen. And if we're starving ourselves of them, that's going to have an effect on us. And obviously you'll be you've been no stranger to the different varied diets. How much does a lack of minerals have an effect on your mental health? Did you feel like if you were minerals, lack of food?
Yeah.
How much does that impact your mental health?
Well, a lot. But I was, as part of the competition prep, I was taking a lot of vitamins and stuff to make up for what I wasn't getting in my food. But I think it's so important to just have a varied diet and get that from your food. Like, everybody needs to eat and have nutritious food. And it does play a massive part on your mental health. But not only that, your body craves it, and it's like your brain has this way of making you think about things that you need, and you need to honor that and like listen to the cues that your body's giving you and just eat what you need to eat that feels good for you.
I can't believe that you say the sin-free food. I could go and eat 4 kilograms of pasta.
Yeah, but you couldn't eat a mashed banana.
That's incomprehensible. Isn't
I know, it's mental.
But like you say, and people will pay money for that as well. That's what I really can't. I don't want to offend anybody in case somebody is listening.
Yeah,
I know. But you know, education is such a massive thing, and there's resources everywhere. There's podcasts. There's you know, go online. You can figure out all this information of what really is good for you. Obviously, a little bit off subject. You're a dog groomer.
Yes.
How does working with animals help you?
Oh my God. Like, I love my job, and like working with dogs is the best thing, and it's something that I've always wanted to always work with dogs. Yeah. Really cool. I'm obsessed with dogs. I mean, most people are obsessed with dogs, but when I say it, I really am. Like, I love dogs. So no, I really love my job, and I feel incredibly lucky to get to do it. And like, running my own business is something that I'm so proud of as well. Like, I've started my business in my mum's house in a like little walk-in wardrobe. That's
really?
It was
amazing.
A tiny little cupboard basically in my mum's house, and I used to bath the dogs in our family bathroom. Like, when I was 18, I started the business, and now I've got my own premises. I'm like so busy that I'm not able to take on any new clients. Like, I feel so grateful for it, and so proud of it as well. Like,
yeah, you should be incredibly proud of yourself.
Thank you.
No, I really do mean it. Because it must be incredibly rewarding. Like you say, that I don't mind my job. I don't love my job. I don't hate my job.
Yeah.
But it's my job. It pays my bills.
Yeah.
But you know, hearing, listening to you, and seeing you smile when you're talking about it as well, you know it's genuine. That must help you significantly.
Definitely.
When you are taking things day by day.
Yeah, I mean, who's not happy when they're around dogs? Like, it makes you feel so much happier. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some days that it's not all great, because sometimes it is difficult. Dogs don't like to stand to get their hair done or whatever. But I mean, really, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot to complain about. Like, I still get to do what I love every day. So, no, I am like, that helps a lot. Yeah.
And not to then go and make to lower the tone after that little upbeat section. Obviously, you're quite open to the fact that you're on medication just now. How important is it that people know that medication doesn't cure these conditions? They just make them more manageable. Yeah. And there is almost a kind of stigma that goes with taking medication for antidepressants. Was that something that you struggled with to go on to make that change to go on medication?
Go on. No, because I felt like, right, there's something wrong with me and I'm not happy in the way I am right now. I need to do something to sort it. And I went to the doctors and explained how I was feeling, and they straight away said, right, we're going to put you on citalopram. So I went on that after Fergus was born. But as I say, I wasn't on it for very long, and I was like, I'm cured. Like, I had such a good response from that. And I just stopped, which I know you're not meant to do. So please don't do that.
I just said don't stop on the podcast. Just don't stop.
Do not do that. I've lost my train of thought. So I went on to that and then stopped, which wasn't the best thing to do. And then probably about 6 months later, I was like, this hasn't gone away. Like, the way I thought to it in my head was, if I had a broken bone or like a visual illness, I wouldn't not seek the help. I would go and seek the help. So I was like, no, I need to go and get this sorted. So I did, and went back onto citalopram. And then I weaned off it after about 6 months. I'd done it properly and I felt fine. I've never had, up until probably last summer, maybe I went back to the doctors because something just wasn't quite right. But it was more anxiety this time. It wasn't, I didn't feel so much depression. It was like anxiety. I just felt, even like going to work, I was like, oh my God, if I had a new client in, I'd be like getting so anxious about it and worked up and anxious around people and like having conversations with people. I was just like, I felt anxious all the time, and now I'm on sertraline.
How'd you find sertraline?
Really good, actually. I had, when I first started taking it, I had some like stomach issues, which I'll not go into because it's quite embarrassing. But and I was like, oh no, I can't take this anymore. Like, this is not good. But the doctor said, just keep trying it. Take it at night time, so right before you go to bed, and that really helped. And within a few weeks, I started to feel better. And actually, now I feel like when I was in the bulk of my the bulking process of the competition, I said, I'm going to get this show out the way, and I'm going to then come off them. But I don't feel like I can do it from the anxiety side of things running up to the competition. I knew my anxiety was going to be high, so I was like, I don't want to stop before the competition. So I had every intention of coming off them when the competition was finished because I felt so positive. Yeah. But now I'm not quite in that place to think about coming off them yet. I need to just work through everything that I'm dealing with the help of the medication, and that's okay. Like, that's...
It really is, and it's just, I'm not going to try to repeat what I said last night again, but I had a conversation when I thought I was on a podcast last week. It turned out to be a bit more of a sales pitch, and I did take a little bit of offence to a comment that the guy had made when we're talking about medication, and my life goal is just to be medication free, because I think that's quite a healthy goal that's attainable. But if it doesn't happen and I need to be on antidepressants, it doesn't really matter, And he was quite flippant and quite snappy. He was like, how many people are on antidepressants that are still depressed? I was just like, that's true, but how many people have a bad back? Go take an ibuprofen, and 4 hours later, they still have a bad back. Yeah. These things are not going to just take things away straight away, and that's a massive misconception.
Yeah, and I think, yes, it's like if you are struggling, it's good to go to the doctors and get help, but I think a lot of it is internal work. You need to do the internal work and do things that, makes you feel better in yourself, but it's not, you can't just take a pill and it all go away. Like, that just doesn't work like that. Since everything that I've been going through over the last few months, I've started meditation and yoga, which I need to talk about my yoga experience because it was, so I went last Thursday to a local yoga group, and I've always been like, oh, it's a bit woo woo, and I've never really understood it, and I thought, I'm going to go and give it a go, and I had the most bizarre, probably isn't bizarre, other people maybe have had the same, I burst out crying halfway through the class, and it was like my body just releasing all this emotion that I'd been holding on to. And the woman who was taking it was so lovely, and so the thing she was talking about was aligning your chakras.
Sorry, I'm just reaching for a book.
The power of chakras. Well, I was like, I don't even understand what that means, but I felt it. I was I feel after it, I felt so just more aligned, and it was so powerful for me, and it's something that I'm definitely going to continue because it definitely has helped.
Chakras massive. Do you like incense? Burn incense?
No, it's not something that I've ever done.
Okay, no, I'm just asking. It's just that I've got. Sorry, I'm just reaching across for a box. So I've got all the different chakra incense burners that help you focus on the chakras.
Oh, well, I'll need to look into that then,
chakra's really cool, but that's amazing. You obviously, well, it's not amazing that you burst out crying.
Well, it was. It felt really good, actually, because I actually can't remember the last time I cried, properly cried, and my body, it just, obviously my body needed to release that emotion, and I felt so good after it,
I guess that, I'll ask it this way, because obviously you're very in tune with your mind and your body from training, and then obviously doing something, meditating and understanding, you're getting that release. Would you say obviously when we're talking about mental health and releasing, that it makes you slightly more spiritual, but within yourself, that you understand yourself. Is that something that you could possibly relate to a little bit when you're talking about them emotions?
Definitely. Like I say now that I'm in my hippie era, because I'm like, I'm really like invested in just trying to like connect with myself and like, I 100% I relate to that.
It's hard to describe.
It is.
You know what I mean? You just kind of have the center with yourself, that you feel a little bit more in tune with yourself.
And I think that's a beautiful place to be. Like,
really is. I don't know if you spoke a little bit, obviously, intrusive thoughts and the kind of the damage of that. I always think that when you're in tune with yourself, you can understand and process them thoughts a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
Was meditation anything that you'd done prior to?
Never. No, never. Because as I say, I always thought, oh, that's like a bit woo and like, but the ad popped up on my Instagram. Again, Instagram just knows what you need to see. And it was for the Headspace app, which is like guided meditation, and it's like 2 minutes or 3 minutes meditation. And it's basically just teaching you the basics on how to do it. So I've been doing that daily, and what a difference just sitting with your body and your mind and just like allowing the thoughts, or actually just sitting there with no thoughts, is like so beneficial. And making you more in tune with how you're feeling. It's like it just it helps overall, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a massive. It's something that I say everybody are probably sick of hearing it. If somebody comes to me and says, I've maybe got a problem with mental health, I've been feeling a bit like this, is there anything that you'd recommend? Meditation is the one that I know people get sick of it, but spend 5 minutes on yourself, you're going to probably feel better for the next 23 hours. It's so.
Everyone should try it. I said to my husband about it, and he was like, "Oh no, I'm not doing that." Like typical. And I says, "No, we're doing it. You don't have a choice. I want you to try." I mean, he laughed. He burst out laughing, and I was like, "Stop it! Take it seriously." But he texted me later on in the day. It was early morning that we done it, and he texted me saying, "I'm having such a good positive day. Like I'm getting so much done." And I said, "Do you know why that is? Because you had a minute this morning with your mind, and you like just collected all your thoughts. You dealt with it all, and now you're able to go about your day and be more positive, and that's why." So now he's like converted. He's like, "I'm going to meditate more," and I'm like, yes, that's good.
A hippie generation is about to form.
I know. James will probably be absolutely raging. He'll be like, "Chloe, why did you have to say that on the podcast?"
No, it's brilliant. It really is. It's so important, and thanks for talking about the yoga as well. It's really interesting. It's something that I've never done. I've never actually done yoga specifically, but it's something that I'd be quite willing to.
Yeah, you should give it a try, because it is so good. I'm converted. I'm a yogi now.
A yogi? Yeah. I forget that you call them yogis. Because it's really important, like you say. I think it was a really good thing you said at the start of the episode. You said people go to the gym, 90% are probably there, which is very honest, is true, that 90% are there for your mental health, not actually your physical health.
Yeah.
And there's so much out there now that we're more open about our mental health. You can see there's so much more opportunities and activities to deal with mental health, and how important is it, do you find, to have these activities in your life?
Oh, like so important.
Your non-negotiables, as you said in the diet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, without the gym, like my mental health wouldn't be as anywhere as stable as what it is now, even though it is up and down, but it's like therapy, and it's so important to have something that you enjoy doing. It doesn't even need to be sport related, like anything like knitting or crocheting or art or whatever. You need something in your life that just takes you away and lets you be at peace and have your mind like
just your little coping mechanism of life.
Totally. Like
it's important, isn't it? Because I know it makes it sound a bit defeatist at times, I guess, when I say it like this, but everything that we kind of do in life is just a coping mechanism from life itself. And I always think that when you become a little bit more spiritual, you meditate, you can just align them things so much closer and a little bit more precisely. So obviously, you're very obviously open and honest before as well, when you're saying that your relationship with food has been a little bit negative. Would that be the best way to say it? Is that something that's improving slowly, or is it something that you can see for the next little while is maybe going to be a bit more of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, it is improving, but I feel like it's a process that you've got to work through. Like, from listening to podcasts, there's a podcast that has helped me a lot, which is Life After Diets. And when I came off of the diet, obviously I didn't follow a reverse diet, which isn't recommended because obviously your body's been so used to eating little calories, and then all of a sudden, like and still am eating so much food daily because it's almost like I have no control over it. My mind is like, right, we need to eat because there might be another famine coming, and that's what it's like. It's like almost like a primal thing that you cannot control. And for the first few weeks after coming off my really strict diet, I ate and ate and ate and ate. Like, I couldn't fill myself up. And whereas now I'm trying to be more mindful and like listening to my body and actually like, you know, trying to eat intuitively, which is something that I'm learning about on these podcasts. But I think it's a work in progress that'll probably go on for, I can't imagine a time where I'll not have to work on it. I mean, there might come a point that I don't, but I feel like it's definitely something that I do have to continue to work on. And some days I'm really good and I'm able to eat intuitively and like listen to my body and fuel myself with what I feel my body needs in that time. But then other times I sit and eat a whole pack of biscuits and I'm like, why have I done that? But I'm also trying to take away the guilt around food, which is a massive thing because nobody should feel guilty for eating food. Like, and that's when it becomes really detrimental for your mental health, because it's like, then your mind starts saying like, why did you do that? Why couldn't you just not eat the food that you've eaten and whatever? And it's not a healthy way to be at all. But now I feel like I'm being more mindful and I'm able to almost interrupt my internal dialogue and be like, no, just be kinder to yourself. And I'm trying to just speak kinder and almost train the internal dialogue to be nicer to me. Like,
that's internal. Yeah, no, just the way you put that internal dialogue. That's just like, I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
Because that's so important. How important was your internal dialogues, to put in the phrase that when, so you'd said, you know, I'm not going to do this show. Obviously there's mixed emotions around there. How was just generally getting back into the love of fitness? And now I'm not saying you didn't love fitness.
No.
But obviously first day back in the gym after this is done. Was there anxiety going into the gym
100%. Yeah. And I think before I made the decision to stop, I was training at 4:30 in the morning because that was something that my coach had suggested to try and sort of correct the balance so that I was able to still spend time with my family at night time. So for about maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I was going into the gym every 5 mornings a week at 4:30 in the morning. And that's something that I've continued after this, even though I don't have to, because it's quiet and I don't see anybody, and it's like I've got the gym to myself most of the time. But yeah, there was definitely anxiety around that. And I think because there was so much pressure on the training that I needed to do, like that I couldn't not do it. I had to do it. It tamed the fun out of it, and I actually didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy training. I just felt like I wasn't gaining anything from it. Whereas now it's so nice to actually go into the gym and like do what I want to do. And I mean, I've made up my own training plan now, which I'm following, because I think it is important to follow a plan rather than just going in and doing anything. But like, I have the choice. If halfway through a session I'm thinking, no, I'm not feeling this, like I'll just do something else, or you know what I mean? It's having that freedom and just the enjoyment of it. So that's like my goal, is just to enjoy training, not take it too seriously, and just do it for my own enjoyment rather than like the pressure that comes with the competition, because it just taking the fun out of it.
I could definitely imagine that. And we've reached that point in the show where I'm going to ask you, in your own words, obviously you've been incredibly open about your own mental health and your own journey and your own battle. Massive respect. It's honestly, it really is a brave thing to do. I mean, are you a little bit more relaxed now than what you were at the start of this
I've stopped
episode?
shaking now, so that's good.
I just think it's amazing what you've done. And this episode is going to help so many people. But if there was just a message, it can only be a couple of words. If you want it to be that you would, maybe somebody's feeling a little bit down, they're confused, they went through diets, nothing, maybe things aren't quite working for them, they're not too sure if this is anxiety or depression. Is there anything that you'd like to say for anybody listening that might just help them understand their own ailments?
Okay, so for anybody that's had a lifetime of diets and going through different diets and stuff, I would definitely recommend listening to The Fuck It Diet by Caroline Dooner, I think the author is, because she'll explain it so much better than I possibly could, but it's life-changing. And just do your own research, and also don't be hard on yourself, because life is hard and everybody has their own struggles. I heard a saying this morning, my husband said that he had heard it, every person's Everest is different.
Yeah.
And that's so true. Like, it's, just be kinder on yourself and don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Every Everest is different. Well, I certainly know what the title of this episode is going to be called.
Yeah. Well, when I heard he mentioned it to me last night, somebody had said it to him, and I was like, wow, like that's actually so powerful. Like, every man's Everest is different, or every woman's Everest is different. Like, somebody could be doing something that for me or you doesn't seem like a big thing, but for them it's massive, and that's just what you need to remember. Yeah, like, everyone's going through it at their own pace and that's
it. We're all life together, and you're right there. Life in general is hard. Take things slow, evaluate, and move with life at the speed that you want to move at. Don't let it dictate you, because 100%. That's when you're going to get into a little bit of muddle. I will give you the time of how long we've been recording now. It's just shy of an hour and 10 minutes.
Wow.
I told you.
So fast.
I told you. Thank you so much for coming on today.
No, thank you for having me. I've loved it. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's fun, isn't it? And I genuinely mean it. There will be people listening, and there might only be a couple of words, might be a big sentence, might be an entire paragraph that we've spoke of, that they'll be able to take some relation from, and that is good. Why we put ourselves under the microscope. Yeah. And I hope in your own self, like you said just before we started recording, that you hope this is a kind of therapeutic thing for you.
Yeah,
I really hope it's felt.
It has. It's been brilliant.
Chloe, that's a stellar episode. I don't think there could have been a better way to end Mental Health Awareness Week than to sit down and to talk about
it's been a good it's been a good time to do it, hasn't it?
And like I say, I would absolutely love to have you back on the show. We
can
pick
definitely
up again in a couple of months to see how you're doing.
Yeah, that would be great.
You're obviously incredibly knowledgeable, and especially from the diet side, I think it's so important that people understand and know that there is alternatives, and to eat intuitively is probably the healthiest thing that you can do for your body and your mind.
Yeah, definitely.
So guys, and like I say, what better way to end Mental Health Awareness Week than this absolute stellar episode. Chloe, you've been just brilliant, and again,
thank you.
For the last time, just thank you so much for giving up your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And guys, I really, really, really hope you've enjoyed this episode. I don't need to say anything more on it. I've been a little bit blown away by this one as well. So, from Chloe and myself, sorry, just before I ping you, for any of Chloe's dog grooming businesses will be in the description of the episode below if you've got any interest in the dog grooming.
I mean, don't hit me up because I've no availability.
I was going to say, she did say that she's incredibly busy, so it might be there for good measure. And likewise, if you see Chloe in the gym, and you want to ask her about dieting or anything like that, I'm sure she wouldn't.
Absolutely
mind to give her a little bit of her.
But you'll have to come in at 4:30 in the morning if you want to speak to me.
There's the kicker. No, seriously. No, guys, we'll end this one here. From Chloe and myself, Andrew Willix, this has been the Borderline Podcast. Good night.